I'm just reading a brief about the poet, and then we can continue with the text. Now, Walt Whitman is a major figure in early American poetry. He broke the tradition of rhymed and metrical poetry. He was famous for writing a revolutionary new kind of poetry, which was in free verse. So this is a free verse kind of poetry, which is not bounded, not restricted by any of the forms of poetry, like rhymes. That rhyming scheme is missing there. You will not find such things like that. And the poem Animals is from his work Song of Myself in Leaves of Grass. Okay. So here in this poem, one thing is very clear. The poet somewhere he is presenting a sharp contrast between humans and animals. The poet here says that perhaps somewhere he feels that animals are much better than human beings. Just a moment, please. Better than humans, because he is in a way showcasing the vices of the humans. The vices present in humans, which are actually hampering the entire environment, the entire world. He says that human brain, which is so called as the supreme brain, is creating a lot of havoc in our world, right? And he thinks that animals don't have. So he thinks that animals are much better than humans. At times it generally happens because you have certain traits, right? So that along with the pros, they also bring a lot of cons. So he finds that because animals are devoid of certain traits, they are more safer, more affectionate, more friendly, and more safe creatures to deal with, right? Humans, if they are having brain, if they are having a heart, they are also having devices like jealousy, competition, hatred. The world is full of all these vices also, right? So because animals, they do not have bring these vices too, right? And we can say the poet gives a sharp contrast between the humans and animals, and he feels that animals are in a manner much better than humans. Right? I'm not reading out the summary yet. I'm straight away jumping to the text. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. So the opening lines itself, the poet is very clear. He says, I think I could turn and live with animals. He said, I could take a turn and start living with animals. That will be better. Because these creatures, they are so placid. They're so peaceful. They're so calm and composed. And self-contained means they keep up control on themselves. Self-contained, in a sense, you can also say that they are not much concerned about what others are doing, right? They are self-absorbed. They are in their own world, right? I stand and look at them long and long. So the poet clearly says that I love to stand and admire them. The poet is somewhere admiring their qualities. So he says, I stand and look at them long and long. Ria, kindly read out this explanation, please.
Okay, ma'am. The poet says that he wants to live in the world of animals. Here we can say that the poet finds the world of animals better than that of human beings. He further says that he finds animals more peaceful than humans. He says so because animals are not running after worldly things like human beings. They are calm and have no greed for worldly things or any kind of achievements. They are self contained, means they are happy with life and never interfere in the lives of others. Humans have the habit of interfering in the lives of others, so poet thinks that animals are better than humans for being calm and not interfering in the matters of others. The poet further says that these are the reasons why he stands still and looks at the animals for a very long time.
Right. So that is what I cleared you, where the word self-contained means they do not poke their nose into others' life. They are they are self-contained, means they are in their own lives. They are happy and they do not interfere in anybody else's lives. Now, the literary device is used as is assonance, that is the vowel sound I is used here again. That's it. Nothing much to be, not much poetic devices the poet has used here. Chaliye, moving on to the next stanza. They do not sweat and whine about their condition, right? Whine is basically complaining. Crying in that complaining tone is known as whine. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick, discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied, not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Now, this is something which is actually very much common in all the humans. That is not possible that any of the human on this earth may be devoid of these traits or vices, whatever we call them. Now, nobody is devoid of these traits. So he says that these animals they do not sweat. They are not putting in hard. They do not doing any kind of hard work. They're not putting a lot of efforts, and they do not whine about their condition. So they do not complain or cry about their condition, which we humans we tend to do that every time. They do not awake in the dark and weep for their sins. Now, sins here refers to the we can say the misdeeds done by the humans. Humans, first of all, they commit mistakes and then they regret for it. They repent for it, right? So he says, just like humans, the animals, they do not lie awake in the dark at night and they do not weep for their sins, the sins which they have committed in their life. They do not weep for it because they do not actually commit sins. It's absolutely, they are leading a normal life where they are feeding themselves and it's okay for them, right? They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. These are the general lectures which you find humans generally at some point of their time of their life they start giving, they start thinking in that manner. They're talking about their duties towards God, the or what they have done to the God. They justify themselves that we have done this, but still the God is not fair to us, right? So he says that the poet says they do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied and not one is demented. Demented here means puzzled or disturbed in that situation where you are baffled. So, not one is dissatisfied and not one is demented with the mania of owning things. We humans, we suffer from that mania of owning things. Means every time we want some or the other thing in our life. And once we achieve that particular thing, the list of our possessions is never ending. Once we achieve one thing, then our target is next, and then next, and then next, and so the list goes on, right? So our desires, our mania of owning things is absolutely endless. So he says that no one is dissatisfied, no one is disturbed here with the mania of owning things, right? So basically, again in this stanza, we find the poet is telling that what humans do, which animals do not. Ria, please read out the explanatory stanza here.
The poet says that unlike humans, animals don't complain of any misery. They never cry out loud like humans do to show what they have lost. They never stay awake in the night crying in repentance for their wrongdoings. This means that animals are different from human beings because they don't show anger or grief if something wrong happens with them. He further says that animals are very truthful because they never boast of their good deeds done in the name of God. He says so because most of the human beings do this. They try to show their good deeds and religiousness to others. They do so in order to gain
Just please continue.
They do so in order to gain popularity among their fellows. So the poet thinks that animals never irritate him by doing such things just to gain some praise from their fellow people. He feels that the animals are not dissatisfied like humans. They stay happy with whatever they have. They never run behind worldly things. They never try to possess things of comfort or luxury. He says that none of them is mad behind owing the worldly things.
Okay, I think I have already explained the stanza. It's quite clear to you. Shari, I'm moving on further. Now, not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself, they evince them plainly in their possession. Now, this is something which he's explaining about animals, and I know most of you do feel the same thing. People these days, they're very fond of keeping pets at home. And the only thing, the reason behind, I see why the number of pets are increasing. It's not that now humans are becoming more human and earlier they were less of inhuman. They were more inhuman. It's not because of that. Because somewhere the emotions and feelings among the humans, the affection among the humans is now missing. Now, if you see at several homes, you will find where everybody is working, and perhaps the lady of the house, she's all alone. She's having nothing to do. Maybe husband stays out of station for several months, right? And children are busy in their own lives, whether they're studying or whether they are settled somewhere. Maybe at that point, you will find family members are abroad. So when people they feel lonely, they adopt a pet, right? So now this contrast is very much visible these days. In today's scenario, this contrast is actually very much visible because these animals are not having any kind of feelings, like they won't complain to you, they are not jealous of you, there's no competition with them. Simply they give love and they take love. They're affectionate towards you. You shower them a little of love and they'll give you plenty of it. So that is perhaps what he says, that not one yields to another. Nobody Nobody bows in front of the other, and nor to the kind who lived thousands of years ago. They have not bowed to anybody, any of the animals, any of the humans. They do not bow. They do not bend in front of anybody. They do not have to plead in front of anybody. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me and I accept them. He says they showed their relations to me and I simply accept them. Relations here is referred to as again that love and affection which the animals show. If you have dogs at home, we very well realize, understand that thing. The way they show their love to us by wagging their tails, by licking your feet, right? They give their love and you accept it and you give them more. They bring me tokens of myself. They evince them plainly in their possessions, right? They evince them means they reveal it plainly in their possession. What I'm giving, they are taking. What they're giving, they're taking, and it's a mutual relation without any complaints, without any one being, on a higher side and one being on a lower side. So there is no kind of comparison, no being envious of other, nothing of that sort. No vices at all, no complaints at all. So the relation between the two is absolutely smooth, which is generally not there among humans. So again, that sharp contrast is highlighted here, right? Now, Ria, please read out the explanation.
Here, the poet says that he has never seen any animal showing his devotion to anyone by bowing down in front of the person. They never do so even for their ancestors. They do not show devotion towards God like humans do. No one among them is more respectable or important as we have in human society. In human beings, rich people are generally given more importance and are treated with more respect as compared to the poor. They never give more or less importance to any other animal. Everyone in the animal world is happy. They are not like human beings who find themselves in They are not like human beings who find themselves the happiest or the saddest person on earth. Further, the poet says that animals are more honest in showing their relations with other animals. Here, he wants to say that animals use other animals as their food and they never try to hide, whereas human beings show that they have nice and friendly relations with others, though the reality is opposite. The poet says that he accepts the fact that animals are true towards showing their relation with other animals.
Okay, I think this is clear now. I'm moving on to the next answer. I wonder where they get those tokens. Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently drop me? Now, this is the ending lines, the poet is wondering about the behavior of the animals. He says, I wonder where they get those tokens. These tokens, he's talking about the love which the qualities, the traits, the affection, and the love which these animals show. He says, I wonder from where did they get there? Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently dropped them? So he says that even perhaps those tokens, even I possessed long time back. So perhaps here the poet is referring to the virtues which the animals have, which now he is not having. Perhaps all these virtues, humans as children, as little ones, they have. But as and when we grow up and we attain maturity, certain vices develop in humans, right? We develop the vices of jealousy, competition, hatred, you know, all these things we develop with maturity. A child, a small infant, is devoid of all these vices. So perhaps that is what he talks about here. Priya, please read out the last stanza explanation.
So at last, the poet introspects himself and says that from where the animals got those good qualities. He further questions himself that where his own good qualities are gone. Did he leave them or had carelessly lost them somewhere? The qualities that were found in human beings in the past, like innocence, kindness, truthfulness, are now seen in animals. He wonders that humans gave up these qualities and they have been passed on to the animals.
Yes. So he says that humans have now given up these traits. They have given up these virtues and perhaps they have passed on to animals. See, basically, what the poet emphasizes here is that in a way, human species is considered to be the supreme one. We all know that, right? Uh, so many other living species of other living creatures on this earth, they believe that humans is the best creation of the God. But this so-called the best creation of God has so many vices, is now full of so many, you can say, deformities in the traits. So many problems are there in the world because of these traits only. So he says that perhaps now the animals they shower love, they are full of affection, they are devoid of any such vices because humans perhaps they earlier possessed, but now they have been passed on to the animals. Their animals are having it, and humans are devoid of it, right? So I think the poem is clear. We can stop here, Ria.